Welcome to Movie Galaxy. In 2077, TV and radio news in the United States report that the president is missing and there's a threat of nuclear bombs being launched. Despite this, at a party, the host decides to turn off all devices and encourages everyone to enjoy themselves. Outside, Cooper entertains the kids with his cowboy performance. When the show ends, Cooper witnesses a bomb dropping on the city, causing a massive explosion that signals the end of the world. The shockwave hits the house, shattering windows and causing panic as everyone starts to run. The hosts hide in their bunker and push away anyone who tries to join them, while others drive off in their cars. Cooper and his daughter escape on horseback as more explosions happen far away. 219 years after the disaster, some people live safely underground in shelters called vaults because it's too risky on the surface. Lucy lives in Vault 33 and is really good at lots of things that help the community, like fixing pipes, knowing science, teaching, doing gymnastics, and fencing. One day, Lucy goes to ask the council if she can join the triennial trade with Vault 32, hoping to find a husband. The council agrees, and Lucy's family helps her get ready and throws a small party to celebrate. They accompany her to the entrance of Vault 32, where she meets Monty, her future husband, who is shy and awkward. Monty becomes part of Vault 33, and after a ceremony to formalize the marriage, both families enjoy the party. While everyone else is occupied, Monty and Lucy sneak away to their room and get busy right away. Meanwhile, Lucy's brother Norman visits Vault 32 and is surprised to find a field of dead wheat. He enters a nearby house and sees that it's been ravaged. When he goes further inside, he finds the vault leader, or overseer, dead. Suddenly, Lucy hears commotion and shouting in the distance. Then, she hears gunfire, so she grabs her computer brace, known as a Pip-Boy, to check on Monty. It turns out Monty is from the surface, which means he and his family are actually raiders who infiltrated the vaults. They raided Vault 32 and then pretended to be locals to gain access to Vault 33. Monty attacks Lucy, and they get into a fight. He throws Lucy against the oven and grabs a knife. Lucy manages to recover and tries to disarm him, but Monty overpowers her and stabs her. Just then, the alarm goes off, distracting Monty. Lucy seizes the opportunity to knock him out with a blender. After receiving an injection, Lucy exits her room and finds that most of her people have been killed, and Vault 33 is under attack. She arms herself with weapons and heads outside, where she encounters and kills a raider on her way. The party has turned into a battlefield as locals and raiders engage in a deadly conflict, with casualties mounting on both sides. One raider is even caught at the door and crushed. Lucy navigates the chaos carefully, taking shots at raiders whenever she can. Norman nearly falls victim too, but Lucy shoots the attacker first and then instructs Norman to hide. A moment later, Monty locates Lucy and attempts to kill her again, but Lucy's dad, Hank, surprises him by knocking him down from the back. Hank continues to attack Monty, eventually submerging him in a barrel of pickles until he dies. Hank and Lucy then rush to the corridor connecting the vaults, only to find that the raiders have taken several hostages. The raider leader, Moldaver, forces Hank to choose between saving Lucy or the hostages. Hank chooses Lucy and locks her in a closet for safety, while the raiders tranquilize him. Before leaving with Hank and the others to the surface, Moldaver remarks to Lucy that she resembles her mother. As the raiders depart, they instruct the hostages to flee before setting off a bomb. In the aftermath, the survivors start clearing up, and the deceased are disposed of for composting. Lucy, despite her stab wound, uses a stapler to close it before joining the assembly to request a search party for her father. However, everyone refuses, citing the danger of the surface. Seeing his sister's determination, Norman persuades gatekeeper Chet to secretly open the door for her. Chet offers to accompany Lucy, but she tranquilizes him and bids farewell to Norman before venturing outside. Stepping outside for the first time, Lucy is struck by the intense sunlight, the sight of a city in ruins, the numerous bodies strewn about, and the vastness of the ocean. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the surface, Max is undergoing training with the Brotherhood of Steel, an organization dedicated to safeguarding advanced technology and controlling its use, as they distrust humanity's ability to handle it responsibly. Their mission is to prevent another apocalypse. Max frequently faces harassment from fellow cadets, who enjoy bullying him for amusement. In class, the teacher doesn't hesitate to hit Max when he struggles to answer a question. One afternoon, a fleet of aircraft lands on the training ground, and the students are thrilled to see knights wearing T-60 power armor. This sight ignites their aspirations to become like them one day. Shortly after the night settle in, Max and his best friend Dane sneak around to get a closer look at the armors. In that moment, Max reminisces about the day he met a knight as a child, an encounter that inspired him to join the Brotherhood. Sometime later, Max learns that a group of cadets, including his best friend Dane, have been selected to become squires and accompany the knights on their missions. Max feels saddened by the thought of losing his only friend. The following morning, Dane screams in pain as he puts on his boots, discovering razor blades inside them. This sabotage jeopardizes their chances of joining the knights. The leaders suspect Max of being behind the sabotage, and take him away for questioning. Max vehemently denies his involvement, and professes his loyalty to the Brotherhood, expressing his willingness to undertake any dangerous tasks to assist them. Surprisingly, his declaration earns him Dane's position as a squire. Following his initiation ceremony, Max receives the mark of the Brotherhood on his back as a scar from a heated metal hand. He then participates in a mission debriefing where they are tasked with locating a wanted man who escaped from the Enclave, a paramilitary organization viewed as the successor to the U.S. government. The group is provided with a picture of the man and his dog companion, along with the information that he has stolen a highly dangerous object that must be recovered to prevent a catastrophe. Afterward, Max is paired with a knight and boards an aircraft, eager to begin the mission. In a different location, a band of bounty hunters stealthily infiltrate a fortress, dispatching the guards stationed outside. Their objective is to locate a notorious bounty hunter who has been imprisoned within the fortress for many years. Rumor has it that this hunter is kept buried alive, and once a year, the leader of the fortress exhumed him, cut off some of his body parts, and then bury him back. As they search, the bounty hunters stumble upon a grave with 4 bags and tubes protruding from the earth. They then realize that the captive is a ghoul, a term for mutated humans. The group decides to test the ghoul's sanity by placing a chicken in front of the coffin. As they open it, the ghoul emerges, revealing himself to be Cooper. He playfully interacts with the chicken, and the group proposes a collaboration to pursue a lucrative bounty, coincidentally the same target the Brotherhood is after. They believe the target is heading to California to confront Moldaver, noting Cooper's past association with the area. However, Cooper reacts angrily to the mention of his history and swiftly attacks, killing 2 of the bounty hunters and injuring the third, whom he throws into his former grave before departing. In a flashback, it's revealed that Dr. Wilzig was working with Enclave's dog breeding program. He disagrees with the Enclave's policy of euthanizing newborn puppies that weigh less than 10 ounces, so he alters a record to save the life of an underweight puppy. This pup is designated CX-404, and over time, Wilzig trains her to be a faithful companion who keeps him company during his secret experiments. Among his creations is a small, pulsating blue bead, which he injects into his own neck. One day, a colleague catches Wilzig in the act and threatens to report him, prompting Wilzig to engage in a struggle to prevent him from doing so. CX-404 leaps into action, attacking and killing the man to protect her master, Wilzig. Together, CX-404 and Wilzig manage to escape the facility while evading gunfire from a turret, becoming the wanted criminals pursued by the Brotherhood. Meanwhile, Lucy continues to explore the ruins and comes across the tragic scene of a family who chose to end their lives with poison rather than endure the apocalypse. That night, as Lucy sleeps by a campfire, she is abruptly awakened by the growling of CX-404. As the dog attacks a mutated roach lurking nearby, Lucy turns around to find Wilzig gazing at her. He proceeds to explain how radroaches grew larger and more aggressive as they evolved from ordinary cockroaches. Despite Wilzig's urging for Lucy to return home due to the perilous wastelands, Lucy remains determined to find her father. Disappointed, Wilzig remarks that Lucy's priorities will shift when the harsh reality of survival transforms her into a different animal, before departing with CX-404. The following morning, Wilzig and CX-404 pause to rest near disposed chemical waste barrels. As CX-404 ventures into a cave and comes out with a human hand in her mouth, Wilzig realizes a dangerous creature is nearby and he quickly leaves. Meanwhile, Max attempts to connect with the knight Titus, but his efforts are ignored. Eventually, Titus grows bored and instructs the pilot to drop them off earlier than planned, disregarding their designated area. Taking Max by surprise, Titus grabs him, and they leap from the aircraft to begin their trek through the wilderness. Shortly afterward, they arrive at the cave site and discover signs of Wilzig's presence. Opting to investigate further, they enter the cave, only to be ambushed by a mutated bear known as a yaoguai. Titus's weapon is quickly destroyed, leaving him defenseless against the Yao Guai. His attempts to fight back with punches prove futile, leading him to flee in terror. However, the Yao Guai catches up to him, knocking him down and assaulting him while he's in his armor. Desperate for help, Titus pleads with Max, who emerges from hiding and shoots the Yao Guai in the head, saving Titus's life. Max then tends to Titus's injuries, retrieving medicine from his bag. Despite Max's efforts, Titus blames him for the situation and hurling insults while describing the harsh consequences squires face for failing their duties. Disgusted by Titus's cowardice and lack of gratitude, Max decides not to administer the medicine, declaring that Titus doesn't deserve to be a knight. As Titus succumbs to his injuries, Max takes possession of his armor, testing its durability by bringing down some nearby ruins. Close by, he sees a chicken collector hitting another man. So, he grabs the chicken collector's hair and lets the other man go. But then the chicken collector explains that he was hitting the man because he was bothering his chickens. Feeling ashamed, Max raises his hands and discovers his suit has jets in the sleeves. After a long walk, Lucy arrives at the Philly marketplace. However, when she asks about her dad, nobody gives her any answers. Suddenly, she spots some vault tech in a store and enters to ask the shopkeeper where it came from. But the shopkeeper gets scared when Lucy mentions Moldaver, and the shopkeeper kicks her out. As Lucy leaves, she runs into Wilzig, who recognizes she's from Vault 33 and starts talking about it before asking her to go back home again. Before Lucy can ask how he knows about Vault 33, Cooper arrives, ignoring Philly's rule against ghouls. The shopkeeper comes out and says she's been hired to escort Wilzig out of Philly. Cooper shoots Wilzig, injuring his leg. Panic sets in, and the shopkeeper offers a reward of 1,000 bottle caps to whoever can take down Cooper. A shootout erupts as the locals try to kill Cooper for the reward. Since Cooper is a ghoul, the attacks don't do much to him, and he effortlessly takes down his enemies. Taking advantage of the chaos, Lucy sneaks back into the shop and discovers Moldaver's name in the clerk's records. She also grabs a gun from the wall for herself. Meanwhile, outside, Cooper deals with the clerk, but when he goes after Wilzig, he's attacked by CX-404. In response, Cooper stabs CX-404. Lucy then appears and shoots Cooper with a tranquilizer, but it has no effect. Cooper tries to retaliate, but Max arrives and pushes Lucy out of harm's way. Max informs Lucy that Wilzig is important and asks her to safeguard him while he confronts Cooper. Lucy and the shop clerk hurry to pull Wilzig into the shop for safety, while Max engages Cooper, causing some havoc in town as he learns to use the armor's weapons. Inside the shop, the clerk uses a machine to further amputate Wilzig's leg and fits him with a metal prosthetic. She then reveals to Lucy that Wilzig needs to be taken to Moldaver. Lucy agrees to escort him, hoping it will lead her to her father. As they make their getaway, Cooper and Max continue their street battle. Max struggles to control the armor, and Cooper manages to sever a cable, causing Max to float uncontrollably. Cooper then hits Max with a rope, sending him flying through the air until he crash lands several miles away. Meanwhile, Cooper heals CX-404 and begins following her as she searches for her master. Later, Wilzig asks Lucy to stop and rest, but then unexpectedly reveals that he's poisoned himself for self-deletion. Before dying, he instructs Lucy to take his head to Moldaver and alter the future. With no other options, Lucy suppresses her disgust and begins the grim task of removing Wilzig's head. Cooper and the dog, CX-404, eventually get to the area. All they find is Wilzig's dead body without a head. Cooper takes some medicine, and he and the dog start following Lucy's footprints in the sand. Lucy keeps walking with Wilzig's head. When she stops to rest, she notices something strange about Wilzig's neck. Every time she touches it, she feels a little shock. Just to be safe, she puts a tracker inside the nose. Meanwhile, Max is trying to fix his suit when he gets a message from the base on the radio. Max pretends to be Titus and says his helper is dead. But when the leaders say they'll send him a new one, Max gets scared and breaks the radio. Later, Max goes back to the market to buy the parts he needs. But he doesn't have enough money, so he has to sell some of his teeth. When he gets back to his armor, he sees raiders all around it. He tries to fight them, but there are too many of them. They overpower him, and he ends up beaten on the ground. But Max doesn't give up. He grabs some tools and fights back, knocking out 2 of the raiders. In the struggle, the raiders push him into his armor, and he accidentally crushes the skull of one of them, scaring the rest of the raiders to run away. Suddenly, a Brotherhood aircraft flies over and drops off Thaddeus, the new squire. Max doesn't have a choice but to put on the armor and pretend to be Titus. Thaddeus believes him, and they set off together. Since Thaddeus used to bully Max, Max decides to get back at him by making him do all sorts of chores, like picking apples from trees. Along the way, they find Wilzig's body and start following Lucy's path. While they're walking, Thaddeus confesses that he used to be bullied by his classmates, and when Max arrived as the new kid, Thaddeus turned the attention to him, although he now regrets it deeply. Back in Vault 33, the council decides on a punishment for Chet and Norman. Chet loses his job as the gatekeeper, and Norman is assigned tasks like bringing food to the imprisoned raiders, which makes him feel belittled. Later, the council announces plans to rehabilitate the raiders and integrate them into Vault society. Norman disagrees, arguing that they are murderers who should be executed, but his suggestion horrifies everyone else. Just then, a technician informs them that they are running low on water for the residents, so they can't afford to continue providing for the raiders as well. Lucy reaches a flooded city and tries to befriend a deer, but suddenly a monster emerges from the water, snatching the deer and then attacking Lucy. She shoots at it, causing the creature to let her go, but it grabs Wilzig's head and escapes with it. Lucy prepares to follow the tracker into the water, but Cooper appears and knocks her down. After hearing Lucy's story, Cooper ties her up and tosses her into the water as bait. The monster reappears, and Cooper pulls Lucy out, forcing the creature to leave the water. The monster grabs Lucy's leg and pushes Cooper away, but Lucy fights back by hitting it with her bag, then CX-404 bites it, scaring it off. Cooper, feeling defeated, decides to leave and takes Lucy with him. Just then, Max and Thaddeus arrive, and the monster attacks them. Max shoots at it, but his bullets don't do much damage. Suddenly, Thaddeus shoots the beast from a distance, causing it to focus on him. As it tries to swallow Thaddeus, Max pulls from the other side, causing Thaddeus' feet to hit the monster's throat so hard that it ends up vomiting to death. Wilzig's head emerges from the creature's vomit, and CX-404 quickly checks on it. After a long journey, Lucy and Cooper reach an old clinic where they encounter another ghoul in pain because he's run out of medicine. Cooper ends the ghoul's suffering by shooting him, then he starts cutting off the flesh to make jerky. Lucy opposes Cooper's action, but Cooper insists she helps him. Later, they stop to get water from a dirty puddle, and suddenly Cooper starts coughing uncontrollably. Lucy takes advantage of the situation to try and escape, but she almost falls into a huge chasm. Frozen with fear, Cooper uses his rope to pull her back to him. In desperation, Lucy bites Cooper's hand and accidentally takes off one of his fingers, so Cooper retaliates by cutting off one of hers. Eventually, they reach the Super-Duper Mart, where Cooper plans to trade Lucy for the medicine that he needs to stay sane. However, after sending her inside the building, he collapses. Inside, Lucy encounters a robot, which gives her a synthetic finger before sedating her and announcing its intent to harvest all her organs. When Lucy regains consciousness on a stretcher, she realizes there are mutated women imprisoned in cages with 2 thieves guarding them. The robot brings out a saw in the operating room to start harvesting Lucy's parts, but Lucy kicks it and jumps off the stretcher. She then grabs a defibrillator and uses it to catch the saw, electrocuting the robot until it breaks down. Lucy finds a weapon and uses the disabled robot to threaten the thieves, explaining that she filled the robot's syringes with poison. The bandits agree to let them go and open the cages, allowing all the imprisoned women to escape except for one who has fully transformed into a ghoul. To Lucy's surprise, additional cages she didn't notice before also open, releasing a group of enraged ghouls who attack the thieves, and they all kill each other. The last woman, now a ghoul, comes after Lucy as well, forcing her to defend herself and kill her. On her way out, Lucy gives Cooper some medicine and tells him that she refuses to become like him. After Lucy departs, Cooper goes inside the building and discovers a significant amount of medicine. He also stumbles upon a movie he made during his acting days, so he settles down to watch it. Meanwhile, back in Vault 33, Norman delivers food to the prisoners, who inform him that the people in charge have a dark past and aren't as innocent as they seem. Intrigued, Norman attempts to access Vault 32's records but is denied. He then enlists Chet's help, and together they return to Vault 32 to investigate. Examining the pit boy of one of the bodies, they discover that the last sign of life was detected 2 years ago, which matches the condition of the plants outside. This suggests that the situation was already dire, and it wasn't the raiders who caused the deaths of these people. Judging by the positions of the bodies, it seems they turned against each other. Written in blood on one of the walls are the words, "We know the truth." Venturing further inside, the duo discovers the dead overseer tied to a chair, with "Death to Management" written on the wall. Examining the log, Norman discovers that the raiders gained access by using his mom's Pip-Boy. Meanwhile, Max and Thaddeus take a break in an abandoned train station. Max officially makes Thaddeus his squire by branding him, and decides to reveal his true identity. Thaddeus refuses to assist Max in deceiving the Brotherhood because he's afraid of them. In response, Max tries to kill him. However, Thaddeus acts quickly and deactivates the armor by removing the fusion core, trapping Max inside. Thaddeus then leaves with Wilzig's head and CX-404. The following morning, a swarm of radroaches attacks the armor, but Lucy arrives and swiftly dispatches them all. She opens Max's faceplate but hesitates to help him, unsure of who she can trust anymore. Suddenly feeling ill, Lucy begins to vomit. Max, realizing the severity of the situation, claims to be Titus and convinces her to aid him by promising to share medicine, emphasizing that their survival depends on it. Lucy reluctantly releases Max from the armor just before she passes out. When Lucy wakes up, she's feeling better thanks to Max's medicine. Max explains that many people believe there are monsters in the vaults, not just humans. Lucy proposes a deal. She'll use her tracker to lead him to the head, and in return, he'll assist her in rescuing her dad with his night weapons. Max agrees, and they set off together. Along the way, they encounter a couple of travelers, and Lucy convinces Max to approach them peacefully. However, when the travelers see Lucy's Pip-Boy, they try to attack. Max quickly shoots them both, injuring his arm in the process. He explains to Lucy that the travelers were fiends, who are known for eating people. The duo continues their journey and arrives at Shady Sands, where they see a sign stating that the population was 34,000 after the war. Lucy is shocked because the vault's goal was to repopulate the world someday, but there are far more people on the surface than she expected. She realizes that her whole existence has been based on a lie. To reassure her, Max demonstrates that the post-war efforts failed by showing her a giant chasm and the destroyed city. He reveals that he used to live here and survived by hiding in a fridge. Suddenly, Lucy notices that Max is bleeding badly, so they search some old labs for a first aid kit. Lucy rushes into the lab, and when Max tries to follow, the doors slam shut behind him, and gas knocks him out. When they regain consciousness, they find themselves in a vault. Meanwhile, in Vault 32, Norman and Chet continue their investigation and realize that the locals were attempting to reach Vault 31. Later, the citizens of Vault 33 hold an election for their new overseer, and Betty wins by a large margin. Norman examines their election records and discovers that all of their chosen overseers, including Betty, came from Vault 31, and the same pattern occurred in Vault 32. The next day, Betty tells everyone that she has spoken to the people in Vault 31, and they have agreed to send individuals to Vault 32 to aid in rebuilding. As the residents of Vault 33 explore Vault 32, Norman is surprised to find no signs of bodies or blood. Growing suspicious, Norman questions Betty about what happened to his mom's Pip-Boy, and she reassures him that it was buried with her. In a flashback, it's revealed that during his days as an actor, Cooper became the face of Vault Tech's advertisements. He records a promotional tour around Vault 4, claiming it will provide protection against communists. The vault is entirely occupied by scientists, with a total of 80 individuals conducting a 5-year trial. After finishing work, Cooper's wife Barb throws a party, but he feels disheartened when his actor friends discuss how Hollywood is fading due to the impending war, and promoting products will become their main source of income in the near future. Barb, who also works for the vaults, already has a Pip-Boy, which worries Cooper about their family's future. The vaults have strict rules, like not allowing dogs, which makes Cooper concerned about the lack of freedom there. This often leads to arguments with Barb. In the present, 3 sheriffs apprehend Cooper and take him to their boss. Surprisingly, they return his severed finger, and Cooper begins sewing it back on. The boss recognized Cooper from before, so he ordered his men to lower their weapons. As soon as Cooper finishes fixing his finger, he attacks and kills 3 sheriffs. Then he questions the boss about a wanted poster of Moldaver on the wall. Cooper remembers her, and a flashback shows that he met her at a secret meeting called Hollywood Forever. She introduced herself as Cooper's biggest fan. Meanwhile, Lucy and Max have their wounds treated by the vault doctors and are asked to wait until they are certain they didn't have radiation. Lucy takes the opportunity to ask Max if he wants to have some fun, but Max admits he doesn't know how and explains he can't because he's committed to being a knight. Lucy respects his decision. Outside, they see a sign indicating they're in a place called Test Subjects. Later, they're allowed to go to the mess hall for lunch, and Max compares vaults to a cult. They meet Overseer Ben, who has only one eye in the center of his face, confirming they're in Vault 4. He explains the rules and warns them not to go into level 12. After Ben leaves, Lucy notices that all the locals are a mix of human and something else. Intrigue, Lucy visits Ben in his office and discovers that Vault 4 takes in refugees from the surface, which is unusual. When she asks about level 12, Ben becomes upset and kicks her out. Meanwhile, Max goes to check on his armor, which was also saved. He decides to sneak into the power room to steal a fusion core and repair the armor, but Birdie catches him. She gives him a Pip-Boy and directs him to Unit 428, where he's given his own apartment. Finally, Max gets to enjoy simple pleasures like television, music, good food, and clean water. Lucy explores and finds a classroom with a model of Shady Sands. Lucy notices a timeline drawn on a chalkboard and realizes that the vault has been taken over by the new Californian Republic, which she confirms by finding their flag. Later, all the locals are called to a meeting to participate in the Surface Dweller tradition, led by Birdie. They remove their Pip-Boys and clothes and begin worshipping the Flame Mother, chanting and covering themselves in ashes. They also drink blood and pass around a painting of Moldaver's face, who seems to represent this Flame Mother. Disturbed by what she witnesses, Lucy goes to find Max, who is enjoying himself and wants to be intimate now. Lucy tries to reason with Max, but he doesn't listen, so she quickly heads to the elevator and accesses level 12 to find evidence. While exploring, she doesn't notice a monster outside the window. Eventually, she discovers a lab with gruesome evidence of human experimentation, including a disturbing tape showing a woman giving birth to creatures that devour her. Lucy continues her search and finds capsules containing pregnant women. However, she has to hide when a scientist enters for a checkup. When she accidentally makes noise, the scientist raises the alarm, prompting Lucy to throw a bottle at him. Birdie and her guards quickly arrive, and Lucy fights back, managing to knock down a few before being overpowered and captured. On the beach, a father and son use metal detectors to search for items buried in the sand. When they return home, they find Cooper in their kitchen and feel compelled to answer his questions. They reveal that one of their sons left to join Moldaver's group and never returned, while the other son has also been tempted by Moldaver's promises to improve the world. Cooper threatens the remaining son until he divulges that Moldaver is at the observatory. The son then attempts to attack Cooper to defend his beliefs, but Cooper shoots first and kills him. In a flashback, it's shown that Cooper disagreed with Moldaver's speech at the meeting, which criticized the decline of the American dream and hinted at corruption within Vault-Tec. She confronts Cooper about his affiliation with them and insists on speaking privately, mentioning she knows Barb. Moldaver had been on the brink of significant discoveries that could benefit humanity, but Vault-Tec stole everything from her. She emphasizes that war is a profitable enterprise and explains that America has been engaged in a resource conflict for over 10 years. Vault-Tec simply acquired the means to end that war. Moldaver provides Cooper with a microphone to eavesdrop on Barb, leaving Cooper uncertain about whom to trust. When he returns home, Cooper bugs Barb's Pip-Boy, but he quickly regrets it and discards his own bug in the trash. In the evening, after seeing another Vault-Tec advertisement, he realizes he wants the truth and hurries to retrieve the bug from the trash. Back to the present, in Vault 4, Ben and Birdie restrain Lucy to a table and force her to watch a videotape. The tape reveals that many years ago, a monster broke into the vault and killed all the scientists in the laboratory. Lucy is puzzled until Ben and Birdie clarify that at that time, the scientists were experimenting with hybridizing humans with species resistant to radiation in an attempt to make them able to endure high levels of radiation. However, these experiments went terribly wrong, and the creatures they made ended up killing the scientists. In the recording, the monster was revealed to have once been human, and the current inhabitants of Vault 4 are survivors of those horrific experiments. Lucy apologizes for the misunderstanding. When asked about the experiment in Vault 33, she denies its existence, leading to her immediate arrest. As guards escort Lucy away, Max finally decides to take action and stops being idle. He rushes to steal a power core. Meanwhile, Lucy is tied up in front of a crowd for execution, which in their culture means being banished to the surface where survival is believed to be impossible. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Max bursts into the room in his armor, causing chaos as everyone panics and flees. Max begins destroying furniture in a fit of rage, but Lucy intervenes and calms him down. They decide to leave together and head to the surface. Once outside, Lucy insists that Max exit the armor so they can return the power core to the vault, as they need it to survive. Max reveals his real name and confesses what he did to survive to Titus. Despite learning about the dangers of the wasteland, Lucy respects Max's actions and they agree to continue working together to find the head. Meanwhile, Thaddeus stops at a gas station to check the wound on his foot inflicted by the monster. CX-404 continues to attempt to access the head, so Thaddeus locks her inside a cola box, abandoning her and leaving. As Thaddeus crosses the beach, he encounters the man Max had previously saved. Claiming to be a doctor, the man takes him to an old clinic and provides Thaddeus with medicine in exchange for the fusion core. Thaddeus eagerly consumes the medicine and is thrilled to see his foot immediately begin to heal. Meanwhile, at the gas station, Cooper arrives and hears CX-404's distress sounds, prompting him to release her. He follows her to locate the head. Back to Thaddeus, he discovers a radio tower and contacts the base to request transportation. While waiting, he spots Lucy and Max approaching and opens fire, but he misses every shot. As he retreats, he accidentally triggers a trap, causing an arrow to strike his neck. Miraculously, he doesn't die. Thaddeus removes the arrow from his neck and observes as the wound miraculously heals, indicating that the medicine given to him by the doctor transformed him into a ghoul. Just as he contemplates his new state, Brotherhood aircraft appear overhead, causing him to fear for his life. In exchange for his release, Max agrees to hand over Wilzig's head. He grabs a random head from the ground and smashes its face to make it look like Wilzig's. Max gives the real head to Lucy and urges her to find her father before kissing her. Meanwhile, in Vault 33, all the raiders suddenly perish due to rat poison in their food. The hospital attendant is arrested for the crime, orchestrated by Betty. She then distributes repopulation assignments, with Chet learning he's headed to Vault 32 with his girlfriend and her baby, while Norman remains in Vault 33. During Betty's elaborate ceremony to send the new residents to Vault 32, one individual attempts to refuse, but the presence of guards pressures him to comply. While everyone is preoccupied, Norman sneaks into Betty's office and uses the computer to contact Vault 31. Posing as Betty, he declares the mission compromised and is instructed to return to Vault 31 immediately. When the door to Vault 31 opens, Norman is taken aback by what he finds inside. Meanwhile, Max is brought back to the base, where he presents the head to the leader. However, the leader quickly noticed that it's a fake. The leader accuses Max of being a traitor for injuring Dane and killing Titus. However, before the Knights can carry out his execution, Max reveals he knows the whereabouts of the head. Dane confesses that they planted the razors in their own boots out of fear for the mission and pleads for mercy on behalf of their friend. Max seizes the opportunity to explain that Titus was a coward, leading the leader to agree that Titus deserved to die. The leader then declares that Max will assist him in acquiring power. Meanwhile, Lucy brings the head to Moldaver's base, where humans and ghouls coexist. Hank is held captive in a cage, while Moldaver dines with a ghoul at the table. Lucy presents the head to Moldaver, who promptly removes the small sphere from its neck. Before releasing Hank, Lucy's father, Moldaver wants Lucy to understand the truth about him. She reveals that Hank wasn't born in the vault. Meanwhile, Norman discovers that the overseer of Vault 31 is merely a brain housed in a small computer. When it detects Norman and scans him, it detects Hank's DNA, but it still attempts to sedate him. Norman dashes the tranquilizer. Norman opens a door, revealing Bud's test tube babies created to ensure the continuation of humanity under proper management. In another flashback, Cooper visits Barb at her workplace, but she's busy in a meeting, so he waits for her. While waiting for Barb, Cooper seizes the opportunity to eavesdrop on her conversation. He discovers that the corporation is plotting against the world, intending to outlast everyone else by instigating an apocalypse to avoid participating in a war. As they debate how to proceed, Barb suggests utilizing the 100 vaults across America and uses it as a scientific experiments to determine the best approach for humanity's salvation. In the present day, the brain overseer of Vault 31 explains the same plan to Norman. Vault 31 houses the executives in cryogenic freezing, while Vaults 32 and 33 serve as the breeding pool. The individuals chosen are genetically selected to mate with the buds, resulting in a class of supermanagers who will inherit the Earth after cleansing the surface. The revelation suggests that the government intentionally dropped the bombs to establish a true monopoly. Additionally, it's disclosed that Hank used to work as Barb's assistant. In the present, Moldaver shares this story with Lucy, explaining that Hank deceived his wife Rose as well. Rose, however, was astute, and after uncovering some clues, she deduced that civilizations from certain vaults had returned to the surface. Despite Hank dismissing her idea as foolish, Rose left the vault upon realizing he was hiding something. She took Lucy and Norman with her. When Hank discovered his children were missing, he went outside and destroyed Shady Sands in a fit of rage. Hank eventually brought his children back to the vault. As Lucy begins to reconsider certain childhood memories, Moldaver explains that Wilzig's invention is cold fusion, offering limitless energy. Hank becomes increasingly agitated, attempting to win Lucy over to his side. Moldaver then reveals that the ghoul at the table is Rose. Lucy confirms this when she recognizes her mother's necklace. Heartbroken by the revelation, Lucy compels Hank to provide Moldaver with the code necessary to activate a special computer linked to the vault's system. Meanwhile, in Vault 31, Norman attempts to leave but finds himself trapped as the doors close. Faced with no other option for survival, he decides to enter one of the cryogenic pods and put himself into stasis. Back with Moldaver, she begins utilizing Wilzig's cold fusion technology on the computer. However, before she can complete the process, the Brotherhood arrives in their aircraft, sparking a violent confrontation between the two factions. Gunfire erupts, leading to widespread death and destruction in the area. Max scrambles to protect Dane, and the Knights utilize their armored suits to eliminate numerous enemies. Hank seizes the opportunity to justify his actions to Lucy, pointing to the violence as evidence that war remains unchanged and his people were right to seek the cleansing of humanity. However, Lucy mourns for her mother and refuses to side with him. Despite the resistance, the Brotherhood, with the aid of their armored suits, manages to breach the defenses and continue to eliminate anyone who stands in their path. Suddenly, a shadow appears at the back of the room. It's Cooper. He's aware of the weakness in the armor's chest plate and effortlessly dispatches a knight. Another knight attempts to retaliate, but mistakenly damages the power grid, plunging the room into darkness. Exploiting his ability to navigate in the darkness, Cooper begins systematically taking down the knights one by one. Amidst the chaos, Max uses the distraction to locate Lucy and swiftly releases Hank from his cage. Lucy reveals to Max that it was Hank who destroyed his home. As they converse, Hank dons a knight's armor and tries to seize Lucy. Max intervenes to protect her, but Hank swiftly incapacitates him. Angry, Lucy aims a gun at Hank, but she finds herself unable to shoot her own father. Cooper arrives and intervenes by shooting Hank in the cheek, forcing him to retreat. Cooper demands to know the whereabouts of his family, but Hank refuses to answer and escapes in the armor. Cooper then notices more Brotherhood aircraft approaching and suggests to Lucy that they join forces to track down Hank and expose the conspiracy once and for all. Lucy makes the difficult decision to end Rose's suffering with a gunshot before leaving with Cooper. Shortly after, Max regains consciousness and witnesses Moldaver rushing to activate the cold fusion, restoring power to a nearby city. Tragically, Moldaver succumbs to her injuries and dies from her wounds. Dane and other soldiers arrive and mistakenly believe that Max killed Moldaver, declaring him a hero. However, Max is troubled by the truth he has learned. Meanwhile, Lucy and Cooper arrive in Hollywood, which has also been devastated and now a wasteland. As the movie concludes, Hank is seen heading toward New Vegas. Thanks for watching our recap video. See you on the next one.